Whatever kind of classroom you may find yourself walking into, empowering educators is the spark, the anchor, and the perspective you need. It is your quick hit of clarity and perspective, crafted for teachers who want to teach with purpose, build stronger relationships, and create classrooms where students thrive. Think of it as your daily dose of good practice in action. Practical, grounded, and designed to create spaces where students feel seen, safe, and ready to learn, while also allowing teachers to find their own authentic flow. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Empowering Educators. This is Ben Russell from Empowerment Ed. Today's episode tackles a moment every teacher knows all too well in their classroom. You've been with the student, you've redirected them, you've clarified what's needed, you've given the student every opportunity to re-engage and own the lesson, and yet they're still choosing to disengage. At this point, it's become clear that, for whatever reason, the student is not displaying the desired behaviour you're after. They're ignoring the request to be on task, and the learning of others is now at risk. This is where our role as relational managers becomes crucial. And this is where one of the most effective tools we have to settle things down come into play. In simple terms, known as the movement request, getting a student to move somewhere else in the room to reset expectations and to get back into learning. It's the ace card that teachers can have up their sleeve. A way to cut the tension, press reset, and give the student one final opportunity to recalibrate and refocus without causing unnecessary disruption to the rest of the room. Here's the catch though. If the movement request or the moving of the student is done poorly, it can actually make things worse and increase the tension, can escalate defiance, and it can turn into a front and center debate with an irrational, emotional young person barking all sorts of things at you while the rest of the class sits back and watches the show with popcorn in hand. This episode is about preventing that. It's about the understanding the why behind the behavior and then using a clear, predictable process that maximizes the chance of success for the student, for the class, and your sanity. Before we look into the movement request, we must look at what comes first though. Because what needs to be clear is that a movement request should never be the first step in redirecting behaviour. It's not a shortcut or punishment. It's a response to behaviour that hasn't changed despite reasonable redirections from you as the teacher. Before we get into the process, we need to check the lead up. Number one, we need to ensure that prior redirections must have been attempted. This includes calm, clear cues that are given the students to self-correct themselves. Secondly, you've probably had to have used relational, low-level strategies, such as proximity control, nonverbal cues, or stated the desired behaviour yourself to which you were looking for. It could also have been a quiet reminder or a brief pause or self-interrupt during instruction. And then a gentle escalation in redirection through a directed choice, such as, you can get back on task now, or the next step will be moving seats, your choice. Thirdly, you need to be making sure that the behaviour that you're seeing in your classroom isn't caused by something else. That is, before escalating our response, we must check that the student has access to the work, they understand the task, there isn't something that's overwhelming them or anything outside of the ordinary from given the opportunity for them to succeed. If all of those isn't the case, then the simple fact is the student is still choosing to disengage or disrupt, despite your best intentions, and therefore a movement request becomes the appropriate next step. Let's now have a look at the process of this. To get it right, there's a few steps to be followed with clarity and calmness. Number one, we need to make sure that prior directions have been given. Like we said before, the student must have had opportunity to reset. Number two, we've then moved to a directed choice. This gives the student forewarning and preserves dignity. For example, you could say the script of, you can choose to get back on track and on task now, or the next step you'll be moving seats. You've clearly stated what's the next step. If the behaviour continues, you then state the movement request clearly and calmly. For example, Tom, you haven't shown the behaviour needed. I need you moved to this desk now. Thanks. There's no lecture or emotion in the redirection, no list of past behaviours. You're just giving the instruction. And then we must allow take-up time. This is crucial. Giving the student a short window to comply without standing over them or waiting for the reaction or hovering. You simply move away and continue the lesson. Even the most experienced teachers can unintentionally escalate the moment. Here are some common pitfalls that we see. Number one, the teacher's needing to get the win or standing over the student. It turns the moment into a power struggle. We've accidentally removed dignity and we're actually increasing defiance in that space. The student is less likely to move when we're standing over them, tapping our foot, waiting for compliance. Secondly, a common pitfall is getting to that debate. The student may ask, why do I have to move? Or this is stupid. And then the teacher responds, because you weren't listening, don't stop arguing rather. And that spirals quickly. The solution there is we simply say the directed choice again. You can move to your seat now, or we can continue this conversation at lunchtime. Your choice. Option 3, students might start negotiating, such as, can I move later, or can they move instead, or the this is unfair card. When we get to negotiation, it can sometimes accidentally invite inconsistency. My suggestion, stay with the instruction. Calm, clear, neutral. When we look out for these pitfalls, the movement request usually works as an effective de-escalation strategy, because if it's done well, the movement request can reset the emotional climate of the room. It removes the student from the trigger that's causing the behaviour, and then it protects the learning of others. It gives the student one final opportunity to re-engage, and, perhaps even more importantly, shows the rest of the class that you're in control without being controlling. And finally, it keeps the dignity of that young person making the mistake without causing resentment. We're not about punishing here. We're looking to reset the learning environment to ensure that maximum engagement is occurring. Therefore, it's simply stating the movement request is one of the most effective behaviour tools that we can use, but we must make sure that we use it intentionally and strategically. If we follow the process, stay calm, and avoid those traps, we can create classrooms where students know expectations are clear, redirections are fair, escalation is known and predictable, and in those moments, students' dignity is preserved. And when we're doing that, we can really see relational classroom management play out in real life. That's all for today's episode of Empowering Educators. If you're keen to dive deeper into more of what we do for both teachers and students at Empowerment Ed, or explore our face-to-face professional learning opportunities, head to www.empowerment-ed.com.au to see what we're building for educators like you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, take care.